3, 2, 1.
Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Let's take it back.
Oh, we keep getting more and more official. I just
We're getting there. Baby steps.
Man, look at that. Theme music.
World premiere, Naki's new intro, man. It's dope.
Naki, man, for creating a new intro beat that we won't get sued on. I love it. I love it.
You should see the Diggin In Da Crates email. They got us for Prince. They got us for
God. Yeah, really? They found them all, huh?
They flagged us for everybody. I mean, Biz Markie. I mean, the list goes on.
They don't play. You can't play somebody else's music on any of these formats to save your life. They're like, I'm trying to expose this music. Like,
That's awesome.
Like, nope,
exposure. They don't need you.
Go to them if you want to know our playlist.
Right.
They're taping.
Happy Wednesday, you guys. This is podcast numero dos, right?
Yep.
Our second one. All right, cool.
It's number 2 for slow people.
Number 2. I think I messed it all up. I think I did an ocho cinco. That is it. Numero 2.
Ocho cinco. Well, 8 minus, let me see, 5 is, and then you have to, that's 2.
You gotta carry the 1.
Carry the 1.
Hey man, so I read this story today on the radio this morning, and it was hilarious. So check this out. Have you ever been in a love triangle? You don't have to answer it. If anybody, if this was the question I posed today, were you ever? Yeah. Have you ever been in a love triangle? And the statistic is 37% of people say they've been in a love triangle at some point in their life, and they almost evenly split between people who were competing for someone else, that one person, or being the person that had 2 people competing for them. So it's kind of an even split. Yeah. So
an octagon.
Yeah. You're in an octagon, man.
It's in the Thunderdome.
Out of holes, man.
My early DJ days.
Right.
It was
It was an octagon.
it was Mad Max. I was Mad Max from the Faradome.
Beyond Thunderdome.
Man.
I was Mad Max. Man, I was Dr. Dirty, man. I was a horrible person back in the day.
Capital D.
Oh, Doctor, you always gotta. The D is the most important part. You always gotta play the D.
Right. Anybody can get it.
Yeah. So I posed that question, man, and people were like, "One." It was funny because most ladies were like, "No, I've never been in a situation like that," and I'm like, "Yes, you were." You were in a love triangle.
Yeah, that's I think that's a very I would say challenging question to ask, because a lot of people in their current situations would be afraid to
Tell the truth.
So,
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I'm an open book.
I mean, me too. Like I said, man, being a DJ and being on the radio, years ago. I was the guy every parents warned their daughter about. Hey, listen, if you can get through the 80s and 90s without, too much damage, you're okay. You're okay. Because remember the late 80s were taking, if you were doing that, you could have, got the three letter.
Got the hookup.
I mean, there were so many people were so casual about their sex back then too.
Oh yeah, it was.
They were falling out.
It was a crazy time. I mean, even though in the 80s I was, a youngster, I still was, conscious to what was going on because I had 2 older brothers.
Yeah, that's good.
And our house was like Hotel Central.
Yeah, I think about it, and I think about the the work I put in back in the day. I'm just
Doing work.
listen. We had this is how crazy it was.
Oh, stripper pole. Okay.
I'm not gonna get like really, really like raunchy, but I'll put it out there like this. Back then, everyone was worried about AIDS, so Trojan became like a big sponsor for all kinds of events.
Yeah.
And we were doing like the AIDS dance-a-thons and all this stuff with the radio stations. And so Trojan was like a huge sponsor. Man, Trojan delivered probably like 10 cases of condoms to the radio station.
Man.
I took 3 cases home myself.
Oh God.
I'm talking
Long dicker.
cases. I blew through those cases, man. I'm not gonna lie. Those cases are gone.
You went through them. Huh?
Nope.
I would have to say next to Wilt Chamberlain, you probably
Man, I used to call Will Pee Wee, man. I say, Pee Wee, what you doing?
I mean, but you got to think about it, man. It was I don't know if it was easier back then or is it easier now?
But I think, and I don't want to sound like I'm that old head, bashing, but
Here we go.
now the work is different. They don't have to like court somebody. They don't have to take them to the movies. They don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. They just send a picture of their junk and they go, "You down tonight? We're hooking up tonight." Dirt. Take a picture and like, "Oh yeah, okay, yes or no."
But what if it's not their junk?
It's never their junk. It's somebody else's junk.
Right.
Someone's sending their old junk. If someone's sending somebody else's, even the girls are like, "That's not her."
Right. Catfishing.
I don't know, but
fishing, all
think
the
about
fishing,
it. Do you
that's
think
what
they
it is.
care? They just know what it means.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
They're
think
just
that,
like, hey, it's on.
yeah, I think that these kids, especially since they're so sexually charged right now, that it's not like before where a girl had a boyfriend. You know what I mean? They had a boyfriend. They kind of stayed with that boyfriend, or the guy had a girlfriend. He kind of stuck with that girlfriend. They're like jumping from one person to another right now, and I think they're more active.
It's definitely a different time because it's probably much easier for this generation to, navigate.
I think so.
I think it's. I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you. You used to have to mac them down back then. You had to have some game.
You had to have a mouth. You don't have to be able to talk to another person anymore. You used to have some, game. Remember that
Right.
was
You gotta have it
Man, you got to have some game.
because they not falling for it.
No,
They
no.
didn't fall for it back then.
Not back then.
You really had to put in work to put in work.
Then I had to break out my business card constantly. Billy Vidal at my radio station.
You see that
Right.
title right there? You see that?
I got a quick story, right? When I was working at a radio station in Chicago, there was this one DJ. He was on the radio like every day, right?
Uh-huh.
This guy used to wear the station jacket.
Oh
And
yes.
he used to get all the girls because he walked around with that jacket. And I asked him, I said, "Why you always wear this jacket, man?" And then he showed me his phone. I said, "Oh, oh, I got it." Because he had a lot of like,
You're like, you got that in an extra large?
right. So it's like, when you showing the business card, this guy was a walking billboard. When they saw that jacket, they knew it was exclusive. They knew he had to be affiliated. Then when they found out who he was,
It was
just-
a lot more.
it
Right.
just jumped into his arms.
Man, listen, I had the radio station jacket. Plus, back then, every record label was sending me jackets, those Letterman jackets. I had
Right.
every record company Letterman jacket. And then, I don't know if you remember the movie Coach Carter.
Yes. Sam
So,
Jackson.
I
Sam
know-
Jackson.
So I know Ken Carter. He had a clothing store here in Richmond.
Oh, wow.
He would do like the embroidery and T-shirts and stuff like that. So Coach Carter made my Camille Jams baseball hats. You might see some of the old school
Wow, that's dope.
on my Instagram and Facebook with that hat. I had a couple of these hats. Oh man, I should go over in the house and go get it. I still have them.
Wow.
These hats were money. I'd put that hat on anywhere I went. Oh my God.
It's instant. It's instant. And then this one guy, the station used to give out these gold pins. that you pin on your shirt that had the station.
Yeah, I got the.
You got that too? Yeah, I had that too, but I never wore it, right? This guy had the jacket, the hat, and he had the pin. He made sure they knew
he's official.
He was official.
He's like, wait a minute. That that little mixer don't have that gold pin, does he? He doesn't have the gold pin, does he?
Yes.
I have got frequent flyer miles.
Right. I actually got the gold pin from the station. It's around here somewhere, but I never wore it because it's like I always thought it was for formal wear.
Yeah,
this guy wore it on everything. He wore it on cross colors.
Man, I have the pin. We even had watches. You know what? I should run in the house. No, I don't want to go now. But next time I'll bring it on. I've got the watch that had the radio station on the watch.
Wow.
I had the jacket. I had the hats made. In fact, my hats were so on fire that Rick Chase, he was like our big crazy, he was the DJ, and he got, rest in peace. But Rick Chase was the DJ in the Bay Area back in the day. And he was like, man, Billy, you got to give me some of those hats. Cause he saw how much action the hat is, because when you're out in public, nobody knows. You're just walking around in public. Right. Yeah. They say a hat with the radio station logo on it and your name there. Man, come on. I was getting hooked up. I'd go to the mall, man. I go to the mall. I'm walking out with 3 pairs of shoes going to the mall.
Well, see, yeah, when you're getting like goods, it's different. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to hooking up and trying to get, the honeys, you gotta really to get in there. So I can remember, we used to wear the t-shirts, we used to wear hats. We really was proud.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't 100% because of who we worked for. It was what we could get because of what we worked. How we work, and that's that's a lot of people get into radio in the first place. It's like no one really from the beginning is getting in to get paid. I used to sleep at the radio station. I was just happy to be a part of it and just be an intern and being there and being a part of that team and the family, that radio family. And then to be able to say you were part of that, man, forget about it. The whole triangle thing that you brought up earlier.
He's all that you brought up.
Well, that's
no, I'm just playing.
but
you brought up that love triangle thing.
But when you think about it at a certain level, like we were at that time, triangles didn't exist for us. It was above that.
An octagon, so that was
definitely octagon. Definitely UFC style, all sweaty.
It was like someone's coming out beaten. That's for sure.
Ooh, that's crazy. Did you guys check out the Salt and Pepper Lifetime show?
No,
I've been meaning to for sure.
Big expose.
I think the main thing that I got from it was the amount of people that was together before they made it. They worked at a Sears call center, and so it was Salt and Pepper. It was Kid and Play.
They all worked at the Sears call center?
Martin Lawrence worked at the Sears the call center with them.
That's great.
And Herbie Lovebug was there. He worked there. So all of them worked together.
Was he their boss?
At that particular time, huh?
He must have been their boss at the call center.
Right. No, he was actually just a regular worker, and him and Salt was dating.
Oh, okay.
They got the first break.
Right.
And they had Martin open for them.
Yeah, man. I know that I hear it and I've seen it. I've seen some little things on YouTube and stuff about Spinderella being real salty about the situation.
Spin the salty.
They did a little dirty.
You have a group and you've got a couple rappers, you're doing all the music, and you have a DJ that plays when you guys go out and does a little cutting with the 2 songs that you've made in the studio. That versus going in and going, hey, I'm writing lyrics for my verse. I'm writing some of that music for our next single. It's a big difference, right? Did she write?
She had a verse on What a Man.
Was it on a soundtrack? Was it on like Waiting to Exhale or something like that?
Probably. I don't know. I know it was on the album.
Google.
But the whole thing is, it's like, yeah, she was salty about the way she was perceived, because the whole thing about it was she was a part of the group. It was not like, okay, we're going to hire you to be the DJ. Once it passed that point, she was a part of the group. Even though Salt N Pepa is the name, she was still a part of that entity.
But so I think now I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying this should, because I'm a DJ, so I'm not saying this should go one way or the other. But devil's advocate, okay, she's a part of the group, Salt N Pepa and Spinderella, the DJ. If she's not contributing in the studio, she's not going to get paid on the songs. She, according to Salt, got paid on every appearance, on every concert they went to. She was paid to be on stage with them. So she did,
because that was the agreement. See, Herbie wrote a lot of the records himself. Mm-hmm. He wrote most of the verses. It wasn't until maybe the third album when Salt N Pepa started with the album that had Shoop. That's when they started writing and doing stuff themselves, you know, and incorporating with him. But the first go around with like Pushin' and all those records that they started with, Herbie did the writing and he did the producing. So it's more so like, hey, you guys just perform these lyrics.
You guys are going to play the bass. You're going to play the bass.
Right. And I'm going to pay you to perform these lyrics.
Right.
So that was the agreement. So she was a part of that once they got her in and solidified her as the third member of Salt N Pepa and not just a DJ.
There's paperwork that says she's the third member of Salt N Pepa?
All the money that they were receiving until they broke up, they were splitting it three ways. Until Salt N Pepa was like, nah, we want to just pay her a fee. The same situation happened with Boyz II Men, with Mike, the guy who sings bass. Is
that why he left? Is that why he left the group?
Well, he left the group because he had a back issue with his back.
I thought he had a back problem or something.
Right. So once he got that corrected, it was.
We're not letting you back in?
Well, they actually was going to let him back in the group, but they was going to just pay him a fee.
Oh, that's horrible. Dang. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to you guys, man. I couldn't do it.
This the guy you went to school with. This was your homie. You went to.
I have to let him back in no matter what.
But
right? How do you just switch like that?
They didn't come to an agreement on. He wanted to get an equal part, and they was like, nah, because we only did like maybe 3 albums together, and then after those 3 albums, I think Boyz II Men may have did 5 or 6 more with just them 3. So they felt it wasn't fair.
Did they have the big ones with like Mariah Carey and everything too?
They didn't have the big records without him. I don't think they had a big record.
Well, then what's the deal? Give them a cut. I mean,
it's kind of like, if everybody's getting 33 and a third percent, now your percent's going to get kicked down to 25 because you're bringing this guy back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you're accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle. You may not want to go back to that.
That's why I can't get divorced. My wife is like, I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle.
That's right. Hey, man.
Okay, well, shoot, I'm keeping you then.
Hey, same here, man. It's like, hey, because I don't want to be kicked back to no percent.
Yeah, I don't want to have to live in my garage. Like, I don't want to have to bring a bed out here. That's the lifestyle I don't want to be accustomed to.
Right. So with all that going on, with the way it was done, with Salt N Pepa, Kid and Play, Dana Dane was there. So Salt N Pepa came, I think their first record was in maybe 86.
Yep.
And Dana Dane was 87. Kid and Play was 88. And it's funny because one of Dana Dane's videos, I forgot the song, Kid and Play is in the background posing as the band.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, here's one thing I'm going to put out there. If it wasn't for a DJ here in the Bay Area, Cameron Paul, Salt N Pepa wouldn't have blown up.
Right. They're just been a condiment.
Yeah, they would have just, there was no hot sauce in there. It was just Salt N Pepa. It's pretty plain. But no, if he didn't take that song and remix that song and play the hell out of it on the radio station, at the time it was KSOL, I believe. If he didn't play it on KSOL as many times as he was playing it, and it got the love, and he was a Billboard reporter, it wouldn't have blown up and it was weird to me because they never ever really acknowledged him. They paid him like $1,000 or $1,500. They never acknowledged him that he was the reason that it's 100%. He is the reason that song blew up.
A lot of DJs break records, shoot someone's career to the top, don't get mentioned. I saw a documentary on Shaggy. Huh? It wasn't you? Right. But I saw this documentary on him, and I was very happy about a guy from Hawaii. Shaggy had signed a deal. He put some records out. The records didn't do well. And so when he put the record out, it wasn't me, it was a B-side of the record that they was trying to push. The guy in Hawaii started playing It Wasn't Me.
Right.
And they highlighted the guy. They put him on. They gave him his shine. And he was saying how the calls were blowing up and people were like, you know, who is this guy? Who is it? What is this song? What is this song? And it just really blew up. And that was the song that saved Shaggy's career. He actually says that. He actually pays homage to that DJ that actually played that record. So I feel most artists that get success, like a Salt N Pepa, which Cameron Paul was a big help in jumpstarting their career as far as radio goes, they should be, you know, if not taken care of, acknowledged for
pay respect to it, you know, to say, you know, hey, thank you so much for this.
Right.
This DJ who believed in us did this. And that's all. He, you know, I mean, he's passed, but I'm just saying.
Did he even get a plaque?
He got a plaque, but, you know,
that's cool.
I just think that, and that was from the record label. That wasn't something like, oh,
not directly from the group, right?
No, and Love Us, he didn't want to have his name on the remix. He was like fighting the next plateau about putting his name on the remix. It was wild, man. It was wild to me. But, you know, a lot of times your ego gets involved and it, you know, kind of twists the way you think. I'll tell you something about breaking an artist with just love, showing love is, so Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., he was label mates with Craig Mack. Craig Mack popped first. Craig Mack, Flavor in Your Ear was all over the radio. So there was a guy working the record named Rob Stone. I don't know if you know Rob Stone. Rob Stone owns Fader magazine, and
I heard him. Yep.
So Rob used to be, promotions for Bad Boy. So he'd come out and he'd bring all the product and stuff for Bad Boy, and he was like, "Hey man, Billy, I need some help with the Notorious B.I.G. Juicy." He goes, "I need help with it, man, because nobody on the West Coast was playing Juicy. Nobody at all. Wasn't getting played on any radio station. Everybody was dialed in and focused on that Craig Mack song, because that Craig Mack song,
it was fire.
It was fire. It would go.
That was fire, man.
And Juicy was almost opposite on that vibe, right? It was a little bit more laid back. There's an Entombed track, you know, it was just really like kind of, it was slower. So I was doing overnights on the radio. So if you don't know what overnights are, it's the shit shift in radio.
Right.
It's where
when you go to sleep and when you wake up, you still never hear me. It's
where you get to learn how to do radio. It's where you get to make mistakes and you get to push buttons and talk and crack the microphone and talk to people.
And you know why? Because no one's listening.
That's right. But you know what? Back in the day, here's the crazy thing about overnights. The people that do listen to overnights are nuts. They are
strange, definitely
nuts, and they listen to every word you say. I had stalkers coming out after me in overnights, like crazy stalkers, because I was.
I know the feeling.
But long story short, or longer, something like that. Rob Stone says, "I need some help with this record." I said, "Well, I actually like the record. You know, we're not playing it." So he goes, "Just do me, some solids on the request sheet, because back then it was a printed request sheet. You'd write down the art, who, they called, what song they were requesting, and you would write it in, and then you would turn that in to the program director." So I was like juicing the request sheet, and then we had the song, and I started playing the song. And back then, it took a little longer for the program director to know you were playing a song. I think SoundScan or whatever it was back then. It took a couple of days for the program director to actually see the song being played on the radio station. He calls me into his office. A guy named Dave Shakes calls me in his office. "Hey, Billy, what is this song?" I go, "Oh man, I'm getting tons of requests for it." He goes, "You're playing it?" I go, "Yeah, I'm playing it like, in overnights." And he goes, is it good? I go, yeah, it's good. He goes, okay, well, do me a favor. Don't just play songs that, that we're not are in rotation. You could do it in the mix shows and stuff, but just don't put it on the, radio. We gotta talk about all this stuff first. I go, oh, okay, cool. No problem. Song goes in.
Oh, you put it in?
And I'm supposed to get a plaque, man. I'm like, man, I can't wait for that.
You didn't get a plaque?
Nope.
That's bogus.
Everyone got their plaques, evidently, or else it came and I never got it. You know what I mean?
You know what? Let me call Diddy real quick. Let me.
Diddy say, man, that juicy.
Right.
I've been looking. I got this plaque in my house this whole time.
Right. You know what I'm saying? That's a great story, but
that's a true story. That's a story on how a DJ and a radio station can influence people's perception of a song, because
I got plenty of those stories.
Right,
too.
that song, and it's like a lot. It's weird because sometimes you'll hear a song and you'll go, man, that song sucks. It just, why are they playing that record? That song is horrible. The 100th time you heard that song, you go, man, that song is going. I love that song.
Right, that's my jam. That's my jam.
Damn, I can't believe they're playing it again. I'm so happy to play it again. It's like the 100th time today they played that song. But music is weird. Sometimes even a bad song played enough, it leaves the imprints on your brain. You're like, I kind of like that song.
It's something about that radio, man. It just,
there is magic when it comes to radio. There really is. Yeah. It's magical that you could put a song on and play the hell out of it, even though it could be like a mediocre song. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I love that. How come I love this song so much? And I don't know if it's the repetition, hearing it so many times. I mean, the song has to have some legs to stand on. No, there's no doubt. It does.
It has to be, but yeah, I get you.
But even though you might have said, man, there's no way I'm going to play that song. And then, a month later, you're like going, man, I got to play that song. If I don't play that song, I'm missing,
Right. You're the only one in the world not playing it.
Why playing the song? I don't know why I'm not playing it.
And another crazy thing that the perception that people have about radio, it's like, despite all the mediums that's going on with streaming and, this and that, radio is still the biggest medium. I mean, 220 million people listen weekly. 97%
of people get their information from radio.
Right, that's more than streaming. That's more than YouTubing and, all these different things. And radio is still powerful, even though the business of radio has changed
right
significantly, but it's still a powerful tool. And I really think artists that are, aspiring artists that are looking to get ahead and try to, get their career jumped off, you have to add that element into what you're trying to do, instead of just, I'm going straight to streaming, I'm going to rely on that, I'm going to rely on YouTube to pump me up. That's cool. You need all that as well, but radio definitely has to be in there somewhere.
There's something about radio that tells you as an artist you have arrived, right? And when you're on radio, even though you might have 1 million streams, if you're not being played on radio, you really haven't arrived yet. And there's a reason. But trust me, there's artists out there that have 1 million streams that aren't being played on radio.
Plenty.
Right?
Plenty.
And 1 million streams seems like a lot. It seems like a lot, but it's not enough to move a record label, like to sign you, right? A record label's like, you go, hey, I got 1 million streams. Record label's like, oh, great. Call me when you have 2 million or 10 million streams.
Yeah, but they're not calling them anymore.
No, keep working on it.
They're making it in their closets and stuff, and they're getting cashed out that way. They're doing it. Look at Billie Eilish, no?
Yeah, 1 million streams. How much is 1 million streams, Naki? How much money is that?
All I'm saying is she got paid by doing this in her bedroom, so she's one of those artists.
Almost $1,000 maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, that's nothing, man. If you sold 1 million records at $2 a pop, that's $2 million, and
right.
It's a tricky business, and I really think streaming is. I'm 50-50.
Billie Eilish is big because she has a record company behind it.
Right, but you know who's big without the record? Who was big without the record company was the rapper Russ. Russ did a lot of his stuff before he signed to I think he was with Columbia.
I thought he was on RCA.
RCA. I think he's on RCA. One of those labels that he partnered with, but he did a lot of his work on his own. Like, you know, this guy sold out Madison Square Garden by himself.
Well, I think so, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I think the next level for these artists is actually doing like a label imprint or signing to a record label, because the record label is the one that has the relationships with radio. They're the ones that are getting 70 spins a week. Independent artist is rarely going to get that sort of acknowledgement or love right out of the box. If you're like on an independent record company, you're going to have a hard time having a sit down meeting with a program director or, you know, a group of radio stations. It's going to be difficult. You might get in there, but you might, you know, you're in like a stack of music, like, you know.
Right. You have to be like, your stuff really had to be like popping in order for you being independent and somebody wanting to have a sit down with you to, you know, elevate you into another level as far as, you know, where your career is. And it's, I mean, like I said, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm really here for a lot of the artists that, you know, do whatever grinding that they do.
Right.
But I'm also here for knowing that it's much easier for artists to get their music out than it was back then. And it's not that I'm, you know, against the things that they do. I'm 50-50 when it comes to streaming, because I feel like artists, songwriters, producers should be paid more when it comes down to the stream. You know, it's totally ridiculous how much one stream is worth. It's like it's not even a half a penny. You can't even break a penny up. So how can you give me below a penny? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think that, and I don't know how they quantify it. I don't know how they decide, okay, a stream is only worth X amount of dollars, because that music drives people to those particular websites, to those particular platforms. And, you know, there's revenue coming into those platforms.
You know what the sad thing is though, Billy?
What's that?
Do you know how these streaming companies make their money?
I'm going to think advertising. I got to imagine it's advertising. No?
Subscription. If you're paying $10 a month for this service, and you have 10 million people paying $10 a month, that revenue's coming in every month. So you're going to get the same amount of money every month, kind of like how Netflix is. Netflix can pay Dave Chappelle $40 million for 2 specials because they getting that and then some every month.
Well, I'll tell you, the platform is free right now. That's amazing. Pornhub is free.
I'm telling you, it's free.
It's free, and I don't understand how they're making any money at this point. I heard they've gotten rid of a bunch of their content too, and I'm like, well, how are you guys going to make? How are you making ends meet now, Pornhub? What are you doing to make ends?
What is Pornhub doing to make
ends meet?
You know, ends meet.
I looked up ends meet on Pornhub. You had to look that up. It's an interesting show. It's called ends meet. It's a whole category into it.
But the crazy thing is with these streaming companies, man, the advertising that they do have is like, you know, icing on the cake. It's extra. And for these artists to be struggling, especially in the pandemic where there's no touring.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, man.
You know, a lot of these artists really made a living off touring. And now that the touring is taken away,
these 90s artists hit like bigger paydays than they've ever had.
It's a struggle.
They're making more money before the pandemic than they had when their songs first came out. Mm-hmm. They were doing so many of those 90s tours, and they were blowing up. It was like it was a resurgence. Every week it was a new 90s show. Right. I mean, I was very happy about that because that was one of the but that was one of the biggest eras. That was one of the biggest eras in music, you know, in my lifetime, that I feel like, you know, the 90s had a lot of, you know, if not the best music, you know, definitely top
you know, and to see them come out and then get these shows, and these shows was actually packed. There was people selling out shows. I mean, it was crazy. And to see that all gone, and now, you know, your streaming numbers are sucking, and you're not understanding because you didn't really rely on it. It's sad, man.
Did you watch that versus between Keisha Cole and Brand? I mean, and,
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness! I tuned in when you guys told me
It was
about
funny, man. Just hanging out with you guys watching it.
It was the worst. It was the worst.
I think that as much money as Apple Music has, and listen, I know Larry Jackson that helps put those things together, or he put those things together. You know, I just think Apple Music has so much money and such an amazing platform that they would be able to say, we're sending you a technician here,
right.
5 Wi-Fi hotspots.
Hazmat suits if they need to.
Right.
A crew of guys, they're going to be in all white hazmat suits. They're going to dial in. In fact, we're bringing a network to you. We've partnered with Verizon Wireless, and we're bringing in 17 hotspots. You will never have glitches or
any issues. You should be good to go.
They should have, and I hope that maybe they've seen this last one especially, and said this they had 1 million people or 1.5 million people sitting there looking at Ashanti, sitting there looking at them. Like
ridiculous. That was ridiculous.
And then
Keisha rolls in.
Keisha rolls in with super attitude. I'm like, man, I get the Oakland thing. I get the town thing because I'm from the Bay. I understand it. But and it was weird to me because she seemed like she was mad at Ashanti. I was like, well, what did Ashanti do to you that made you late? I mean, it was weird. It's a weird vibe.
To me, she seemed like she was on that Whitney and Bobby Brown tip. She seemed a
little.
She seemed off, very off, like something wasn't.
Listen, I'm not gonna say anything because I live out here in the Bay, man. I don't need anybody knocking on my door. So you talking bad about Key? I'm like, nope, I wasn't talking bad. I was just curious.
Billy, Keisha Cole's on line 1.
Damn it, no,
Keisha, what's going on? Yeah, seriously, Keisha,
I picked you to win.
you just got here. How you mad?
And it's wild to me because I'm watching that. And it just feels like it's it's a train wreck. You already know when somebody's that late, you already know it's gonna be a train wreck.
Right.
Just watching it because you want to watch the carnage. You want to see the blood. You want to see a limb missing off of the person.
The explosion.
Or you want to see a nip slip or something. You're just waiting. You're waiting for something to happen. And it felt to me all like they could have done so much better.
Right.
And moving forward, I would say get a crew, and you have enough money. You can send somebody to one site and you can send somebody to the other site if they're not going to be in the same room together. So far, the best ones have been when they're in the same room, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you have a little more control over the sound. I just think the sound quality, and we're talking about the music industry. We're talking about people who are professionals in the music industry having the shittiest sound on the planet. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. How people who put together the biggest concerts, who represent the biggest artists, have the shittiest sound. How does that make sense?
It doesn't. That's just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. I really feel like they dropped the ball on that because it should be flawless.
Absolutely.
And these artists are being paid, some way, somehow. They're not just showing up, and donating their time.
But let me ask you this. Let me think big picture here, because I'm just thinking what makes me happy. What's going to make me happy when I'm watching one of these shows? Maybe they like the shit show. Maybe they like the fact that somebody's Wi-Fi is going to be so that people are going to talk shit about the Wi-Fi. They're like, man, you see Teddy's Wi-Fi? He didn't even know his own password. And this is like that was a thing all into itself, where someone has such bad Wi-Fi that it becomes its own like monster. It takes right?
Right, because when you think about it, good press and bad press is still press. So,
Yeah, getting your name
You
out.
know.
Maybe that's it. Because that makes, if I was to look at it like from that standpoint, then that makes sense. Because you can have somebody coming in, because the artist, I think you want to see the artist have a meltdown. You want to have this person.
Right.
You want to have this person who you think you put on a
Right.
pedestal. You're like, oh, this person is so this and so that, and then you see the real person like lose their shit over Wi-Fi.
It's good for ratings.
That's probably funny, because nothing is funnier than seeing a human being or
Losing
an
shit.
artist act like a human being. Like, man, I do the same shit. I would be breaking something. I would have took the microphone and threw it through the camera, and if my Wi-Fi was so jank,
Because this is supposed to be a big moment for you, and you can't convey your message to the audience because of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's
way.
they definitely have to get that together. I think, they had a few runs where they had some good ones. Like, I really loved the Jeezy and Gucci Mane. That was like,
But there was a narrative there too, right?
right. The narrative was there, right? Yes.
There could be funk. There could be some real
Yes.
Talk about UFC.
And I watched it all the way through because I just
hoping you were
something was going.
gunplay.
I wasn't hoping for it, but I was just looking to see, like, man, something may jump off in this joint.
Gunplay.
You know what I'm saying? But to see them perform so icy together after all these years, I think that was a big moment for hip hop.
Yeah,
As
definitely.
far as, it was definitely good to see that you can put your differences aside and come together and just, let's try to, bury the hatchet. So I think that was dope.
Well, I think what they should do, and now this is counterintuitive to me because I'm a DJ, but what they should do is eliminate the DJ. These DJs are trying to show out, right? They're trying to show out and they're cutting up, they're scratching over the top of the people are talking or singing. I'm like, no, it's it's not your moment. It's not the DJ's moment. It's these artists' moment, and the artists are so comfortable because it takes a load off of them by having that DJ. They have to be a little more uncomfortable and say, listen, I got like a 20-song DAT set that I'm about to run through right now, or CD set, however they're doing an MP3 set. I've got a 20-song set I'm going to run through. You just push play on this next song.
Or they can hire a DJ that knows its place. A DJ that can just get in there and play whatever that is supposed to be played and not necessarily making it to the point where it's about them. What if Apple Music hired a DJ just to do it? You know what I'm saying? Not because everybody comes with their own
DJ. Are we talking Violator DJ? What are we talking?
It could be Violator All-Star DJs, man. We could be you know what I'm saying? We could be in the place. But when you think about it, you don't want to take a job away from a DJ because that's arrogance.
That's what I'm saying.
But if Apple Music was to say, hey, we're going to hire Billy Vidal. We want you to play these 20 records until the artist arrives.
Right.
That'd be dope. You know what I'm saying? Because, these artists, these DJs, these artists that have their own DJs, it does become a problem. And it does become a little irritating to hear them doing the stuff that they're doing and making it about them versus about the artist. It's bad.
Also, the good thing about the Too Short E40 verses is that the DJs they used know how to play in clubs too. So they were playing like West Coast, basically Bay Area bangers while the guys were warming up. And Too Short told me when I did the little interview with him in E40, Too Short told me he's the reason that they did that. He said at first when he got there, they were playing like R&B, like smooth joints, like before. No, seriously, that's what the DJs are playing. And he's like, oh man, he goes, just play all Bay. And Too Short was the one who told them what to do musically.
They should have been doing that anyway. That's sad that they did.
That's the thing. But Too Short was the one who said, no, you guys at this point on play all Bay. So shout out to Too Short for that, man. He at least he recognized it. He's a veteran though. He's a veteran and he understands and he understood the moment. He understood the narrative and he said he was going to control the narrative of that whole thing. But
when you think about it, just like last week, how we were saying, about the BPM riders, the DJs that don't know the music, they just ride the BPMs.
Uh-huh.
If you looked at this verses, you would have saw it was an all Bay Area verses. It wasn't like it was somebody from another part of the country and another part of the country. So it only makes sense to me if I did it, if I was a DJ, or to play all that music, because this is where you are. This is this has nothing to do with the South. This has nothing to do with the East Coast or the Midwest. This is all West Coast Bay Area music, because two of the biggest Bay Area icons in hip hop are doing the battle today. So it just makes sense to do that. But again, you got DJs. I'm gonna make it about them. All in the video.
All in the video.
All on the record. You know what I'm saying? It just at some point you have to use your logic and your mind and say, hey man, I'm gonna just play all this until they tell me not to.
Right. That's good. All right, you guys. So that was a lot of fun, man. I'll check you out next week. I got some more work to do, man. More work to do in here.
Oh, same here, man. We all grinding.
All right. Until next time.
All right, you
Till
guys.
next time.
3, 2, 1.
Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Diggin in the crates. Let's take it back.